on January 20th, 2021 at 7:04 p.m. We will begin with a period of opening remarks, which is just to say, welcome back from break. I hope you've all had a fantastic, relaxing, and great break. I hope that you were able to enjoy time with family or enjoy time wherever you were over that break. With that, we're also going to move into a period of opening roll call led by Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair.
All right, howdy folks. Let's go ahead and take a look in the drive under e-meeting resources for today's meeting, and you should have a opening roll call Google form. Let's go ahead and fill that out, and y'all have got till about 7:10.
And again, as we do this, just as a reminder, only senators do have to fill this out. Everyone else is welcome to sit patiently while we wait. All right, as Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair said, that form will remain open until 7:10. So if you haven't filled that out yet, go ahead and do that. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and move forward into a period of invocation and the pledges of allegiance, led by special guest Atka Patel of the Hindu Student Association. Atka, we're happy to have you with us. Can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Fantastic. The floor is yours.
Howdy, Senate. I'm going to begin today's invocation with a Hindu prayer for peace. Om Dyahu Shantirantariksha Guna Shantihi Prithvi Shantirapahayah Shantiro Shadayah Shantihi Vanaspatayah Shantirvishve Devaha Shantir Sarvaguna Shantihi Shantireti Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. And now for the translation. May the heavens be at peace, may the sky be at peace, may the earth be at peace, peace to the water, peace to the trees and nature. May the gods be at peace, and peace unto Brahma the creator, and may we humans realize this peace. Om, peace, peace, Om. And now for the pledges. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge of allegiance to these Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And now for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Atka, thank you so much for being with us tonight. As always, it's a pleasure to have special guests from across campus come and lead us in invocations as we begin our meetings and remind us of the things that make us different, as well as the things that bring us together, and that's incredible. We'll now move into a period of the reading of the mission statement and the Aggie Honor Code, read by our longest serving senators, Chair Rodriguez.
Howdy Senate. The mission statement reads, the Texas A&M Student Senate represents all students in order to enhance the Texas A&M experience within our university and communities through research, legislation, and advocacy in accordance with the core values of our institution. An Aggie does not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those who do. Thanks and gig'em.
Thank you, Chair Rodriguez. We'll now move into a period of the Singing of the Spirit of Aggieland, led by Executive Director Marbut.
Howdy, Senate. Give me just a second. I'll share my screen and we can get this rolling.
All right, thank you, Executive Director Marbut. We'll now move into a period of open forum. Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair, do we have any attendees for open forum?
Yes, sir, we do. I believe Chair Jeffries has a presentation he'd like to give during open forum.
Chair Jeffress, you do have the floor.
Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yes.
Howdy, Senate. This past semester was very unknown about how grades would be affected. So I reached out to some of the academic leadership at the university and also looked at the registrar's data and compiled a short little report. I'll do doing some highlights, and if you want the data I used and then this full presentation, feel free to contact me. So this is the Q-drop differences and withdrawals. So there was a marked increase in Q-drops. This may be because of the Q-drops weren't counted towards your state mandated cap. Also, withdrawals did decrease, which I thought was kind of surprising. And this is the cumulative GPA. And it shows you the different breakups of what that GPA looks like in different sections. So this is 4.0 and over different years. You can see there's a difference on the left-hand side. This is a proportion. So if you multiply it by 100, you'll get a percentage. And this was the relative difference from 2018 to 2020. So there was 45% increase in 4.0s and higher. And then at the lower end, you could see the vast reduction of individuals with higher than a 0.75 all the way up to a 3.29. 3.249. And then you have increase on the lower end of the spectrum. So you could also break it up by GPAs and by freshmen. I don't know. So I thought the most stark difference was the difference in the freshman and the sophomore classes here and here. Furthermore, the Faculty Senate passed resolution the 11th stating that they would not support pass-fail, but would support the moving of the Q-drop deadline to a later date this semester. So I doubt that we'll be able to get much progress And I don't think it's feasible for us to expect pass-fail this semester. And with that being said, I am open for questions.
Are there any questions for our presenter? Chair Feldman.
Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. Just based on this presentation, I understand that it's to show that you would believe that pass-fail is unreasonable, but I don't think that GPA padding is honestly the only reason we were pushing for pass-fail last semester, nor should we give up pushing on it for this semester. It was, mental health is a major component of that as well.
And Chair Feldman, is there a question there?
I would just ask, is there any data to show how distressed students have been over the past semester, worrying about dealing with COVID, as well as having to deal with their classes, not just GPA-wise, but just management-wise as well?
So I have had a meeting with a discussion about CAPS. They did see a decrease in the usage of their services. Not to say that students aren't going through a hard time, but they're not seeing that marked increase in usage. Furthermore, I don't believe that Faculty Senate will be reversing their decision unless strong evidence comes out saying that pass-fail will support students' mental health, since they already made this position clear.
Are there any other questions for Chair Jeffress? Senator Farrell.
Senator Farrell, Engineering Caucus. Are we going to have access to this PowerPoint after today's meeting?
Yes, I can send it to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. I yield my time to Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Yes, Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Jeffries, my question is kind of in line with a series of things I think challenges students have encountered, especially in the fall semester and spring semester. But does any of the data reflect how students who have learning disabilities or have accommodations experience different situations involving their grades, given that they may have not had access to the similar accommodations they had in previous semesters? And is there any data that indicates that disability services were able to kind of adapt to those challenges, or were there areas that we can continue to advocate?
That's an excellent question. We can certainly reach out to the disability services and ask if they have access to that type of data and the feedback from the students using their services and if it was adequate.
One additional question, if that's possible, Mr. Speaker.
Permission granted.
So as of now, that data does not reflect, it's not broken down in terms of if a student has accommodations and they had a different experience in the classroom. All that just demonstrates is grades across the board.
Yes, so it's you can break it up by gender and class year, but I don't think it gets any more particular than that.
Other questions for Chair Jeffress? Chair Feldman.
Chair Feldman, Legislative Relations. Has this also taken into account that this next semester will have even more in-person classes, and a lot of classes were online, or many students opted for an online option last semester, which some classes will not be offered online this semester. I can tell you as one of those people, I have all my classes in person. Is Faculty Senate even aware of the fact that that could pose problems, not just on mental health, but on the other factors that Pro Tempore Trosclair outlined, as well as other factors as well, dealing with the global pandemic on top of that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah. Is Faculty Senate aware that with a majority of classes going back to in-person and a lot of them not having an online portion anymore, are they aware that that could cause a problem, especially dealing with the global pandemic in the moment, to mental health and other factors that Pro Tempore Trosclair also outlined in the previous question?
Yes, I'm sure they're very aware of what kind of format the teaching style will be in and what kind of climate they're in currently. I think they strongly considered those factors when coming to this decision. I do not believe, unless there is a significant change in either the scale of the pandemic locally or some evidence to say pass fail helps mental health of the students that utilize it, they will not change their position. But
And with 30 seconds remaining in question and answer, Senator Martin.
Thank you, Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. Chair Jeffries, I was wondering if there's any information comparing in-person classes to online, if there's any difference in how well a person did in one versus the other. Is there any data suggesting that maybe online was better for students versus in-person classes?
That data has not been made available yet. I can certainly reach out and see if they have been, if they finished analyzing the individual.
Chair Jeffers, if you would please finish your last sentence.
Individual grade distributions per section.
All right, and that does conclude the period of question and answer. Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair, do we have any other presenters for open forum?
No, sir. It appears there are no further individuals for open forum.
And that will conclude our period of open forum, and we'll now move into a period of the approval of the 11/18/20 meeting minutes. Those minutes can be found in the drive, and we will move to approve those meeting minutes by general consent. Do I see any objections to general consent? And if you do have an objection, you can type that in the chat. Seeing none, we have approved the 11/18/20 meeting minutes. We'll now move into a period of approving the 11/27/20 special session minutes. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing no objections, then we have approved the 11/27/20 special sessions minutes. And we'll now move into a period of special presentation regarding TAMU's COVID protocol given by Dr. Sean G. Gibbs, the Dean of Public Health and the lead for the COVID response here at Texas A&M University. Dr. Gibbs, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Apologies, my internet is apparently slightly unstable this evening, something which I know none of you can relate to. Basically, I've been asked to touch base on a couple items here. Before I get started, first thing I'd like to do is thank all of you. I know many of you have been very instrumental in getting the information out about our COVID testing program and helping us to get volunteers out there. My wife and I, we've been out there and we've volunteered at least 6 different shifts so far and have had a chance to chat with a lot of students and a lot of student leaders. And we really appreciate you guys helping to get that information out there. So just a little, I'm the Dean of School of Public Health, but my research interest and my expertise is actually in the disruption of highly hazardous communicable diseases. So I've spent approximately 20 years doing research on pandemics and highly infectious diseases. One of my previous positions was I was director of research for the Nebraska Biocontainment Units during the Ebola crisis, where we treated multiple Ebola patients in the United States. And I've personally been involved in Ebola protocols and others. Additionally, I work a lot with the Department of State, the Department of Defense, and a number of other groups around responding to events like what we're experiencing right now. So that's just a little bit about my background and kind of what I'm knowledgeable in. So what I've been asked to talk to you is one of the questions I got was essentially, What is the differences associated with this semester as compared to the previous semester relating to COVID? One of the things I would like to say is that, while we're seeing spikes in the COVID cases across the country and locally, we actually anticipated this. We planned for this. We made a lot of changes back in November and December to how this semester would be going because we saw this coming. National and local experts had predicted that the November to December holiday seasons would result in many more cases here in January. And the rise in local national cases are a result of those behaviors during those breaks, which are mainly small social gatherings. So one of the things that we did in anticipation of that was the implementation of the return to spring testing as an effort to identify essentially as many positive cases early on in the semester rather than later. This is not an effort to create a bubble. I want to be clear. No one in the country has essentially been able to create a bubble with the exception of maybe the NBA. So this is an effort to identify as many positive cases and let people know that they're positive early on. So right now we're in the process of running people through that protocol. We've completed essentially the employee return to work spring testing, and we had a positivity rate amongst the employees of about 1.3%. Amongst that's full-time employees. Amongst the student employees, it was about 2.8%, but that data is changing every day because students essentially have until the 22nd to continue to test. You'll seeing some of that information pop up on our coronavirus dashboard, which we've reconfigured for fall so that we can get you more information right up front about the conditions here in spring and what's going on. One of the other changes we made was the request for the 72-hour isolate or self-quarantine upon return from Brazos Valley. Again, we're not trying to create a bubble. This is simply an effort to slow the spread of virus so that people can identify symptoms early on once they get back in. Just want to continue to remind everyone, even though with all the testing we're doing, even if you got a negative COVID test, you should continue to always wear a mask and socially distance. Negative COVID test does not mean you are 100% virus-free. We will be continuing testing throughout the spring semester. We are going to have the capability for students and faculty, whether they're symptomatic or asymptomatic, to get a test in any given week. We are also going to be doing large-scale testing pushes every other week or approximately every third week, similar to what you saw right before Thanksgiving. So that's kind of some of the conditions that we've changed in relation to what's different now than what was different in fall. One of the other questions I got was, why is our spring break so short compared to other institutions? And what I'll tell you is there is no right answer. There's not a playbook for something of this scale. All different universities are trying different approaches based upon their conditions on the ground. Some universities went purely online. Others are doing variations. Others aren't allowing various student activities and so on. So everyone's trying to thread the needle between the social needs of the students and the faculty population and everything that we need to do in order to maintain as safe an environment as we can on campus. So one of the things that we repeatedly see is after any holiday break, particularly any holiday break that heavily encourages socialization and in some cases alcohol consumption, we see a spike in cases. We also see a spike in cases associated with holidays where there's a lot of travel. This is because of all the different people you would interact with and the changes in behaviors that you would do and decisions that are made traveling that they normally wouldn't. So that's the reason why that's essentially in order to try to make sure that we can get through the end of spring, allowing with the level of in-person classes that we've been able to do. And one of the things that we really want to try to do is have the ability to do in-person graduation again. We were one of the few universities that were able to do in-person graduation in the fall. And while it looked very different and felt very different to faculty, staff, and students as well, we were happy that we were able to achieve that with no virus-related issues associated with the events themselves. So that's the reasoning there around the spring break. One of the other questions I got is around, should we be concerned about the ICU capacity? This is something that we are monitoring on a daily basis and that we are in heavy communication, not only with the health department, but also with the various health providers. So one of the things that we keep seeing over and over again is in-person classrooms and office spaces on campus continue to be environments so that we don't see the spread of the virus. When our team evaluates the COVID-19 cases related to A&M, we essentially see two almost separate outbreaks with a little leakage between the two. We've got our essentially employee population, and our employee population mimics that of the overall Brazos Valley population, which of course they're a part of, so that makes sense. And that's an outbreak that's driven by their social circles and their family circles. The majority of our employee population reside within the community, so their usage associated with those hospital beds and those ICUs are already calculated within the need for the university, for the region. Now, within our student population, we mostly see transmission back and forth amongst the student population, or essentially within your peer groups or your family circles. And again, we seldom see the interaction or the spread of the virus between the employee circle and the student circle. I'm not saying it doesn't happen and that it's zero, it's just fairly small. Many of our off-campus student population were already in the Bryan College Station area and are already utilizing the hospital capacity and so on. I had our staff at the School of Public Health do an analysis of the hospital bed usage for those between the age of 18 and 30, essentially for the past 6 months. And what we saw is the daily average COVID-19 related hospitalizations for persons 18 to 30 has been below 1 per day throughout fall and continuing into spring semester. In most cases, that's a fraction because that's a 7-day average. So they'll be in there someday and then not in there others. Now, our student population is therefore not likely to further strain existing healthcare infrastructure. Now, ICU capacity and bed capacity, how that is structured is it's associated with what are called staffed beds, and the numbers that you generally see reported are associated with Brazos County.
And Dr. Gibbs, unfortunately, I do have to pause you for just a second for a motion from Chair Jeffress.
Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs, I move to extend the period of presentation by 3 minutes.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds in the chat, we will move by general consent to extend the period of presentation by 3 minutes. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass. Dr. Gibbs, please continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Excellent, thank you. So for example, in Brazos County, there are a total of 433 beds available, and we monitor those daily. Now, those 433 beds are not what's reported. What's reported is actually staffed beds. So for example, a couple days ago, there were 412 staffed beds. So there's a difference between staffed beds and available beds. Now, staffing continues to be a concern, and it's something we monitor. Right now, the going rate for visiting nurses, particularly those who are ICU qualified, is 4 times what it was 3 and 4 months ago. So looking at the surrounding counties, those are mostly what we refer to as critical access hospitals. And there are an additional 86 beds associated with those. And most of the time, those are under 50% occupancy because the more severe cases get moved here to Brazos County to the larger hospitals. Now, ICU beds are something that we're very concerned about because even though most students aren't going to need an ICU bed associated with COVID, when you need an ICU bed, you really need one. So if there's car accidents or other things like that, we want them to be available. So there are 52 total ICU beds right now in Brazos County, and there's an additional 5 in the surrounding county. So as you can see, we have the majority there. We're currently running 131% occupancy. Now that is essentially, one of the latest ones was, so essentially there were 54 beds utilized. So what that means is they've got someone who's an ICU patient in a standard bed, and they're staffing it that way. So we've also been communicating with the surrounding regions. So for example, Galveston, their hospital bed usage is much lower than ours, and their ICU bed usage is much lower than ours. So if there were the need, we might be able to transfer out depending on what we hear from the local healthcare centers. Now, keep in mind, A&M doesn't have control of that, and A&M's not involved in those decisions. This is just something we monitor on a daily basis to make sure we know what's going on in the community. The other question that I got was, what is Texas A&M's vaccination plan?
Dr. Gibbs, I'm sorry to stop you again here, but we do have a motion from Chair Ahmed.
Howdy, I'm Chair Ahmed. I'm Diversity Inclusion Chair, Off-Campus Caucus. I move to extend the speaker presentation by 2 minutes.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds in the chat, we will move to extend the period of presentation by 2 minutes via general consent. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass, and 2 minutes will be added to the time of presentation. Dr. Gibbs.
Apologies, deans are notoriously long-winded, and I'm guilty as such. So I'm going to drop into the chat as well some information on our vaccine update that we just put out recently. One of the things that I will tell you is we actually don't control the vaccines. The vaccines flow from the federal government to the state government, and then to the regional areas, and then to the providers within the regions. We have filled out all the paperwork and done everything necessary to be a vaccine distributor. We have 4 approvals, 2 at the College of Pharmacy, 1 at the College of Medicine, and 1 at Student Health Services. The state of Texas is currently still within 1A and 1B within their vaccination phases. We do not know what 1C is, and we do not know what general population and student prioritization will be. With that being said, we have to follow state rules in regards to this. So we're only able to vaccinate 1A and 1B populations, which are essentially our clinical providers and those at high risk, so over 65 or with comorbidities. To date, as I speak to you, we have only received 100 doses of vaccine, and those went directly into clinical providers. We're hoping for and expecting another shipment of about 600 to 800. That was supposed to be coming in today. I've been told it's been delayed. Those will again go directly into clinical providers. And when I say clinical providers, that's faculty, staff, and students as well. So with that, I'll stop and open it up for questions.
Our presenter is open for questions. Do I see any questions? Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, permission to preface briefly?
Briefly.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbs, I want to say all the volunteers and the student workers have done such a fantastic job. They're all super friendly. I got tested recently though, but I ran into a little bit of a challenge. Long story short, my results would be coming back negative, but I never received the email. And the very nice folks that were at the table were able to pull up my UIN and make sure, obviously it was negative, but I never received an email. So is there some form of discrepancy that happens with distributing the results to students? Because my concern is if it's happened to me, I'm assuming that the glitch or whatever the issue is could happen to other folks, and that could be a concern.
So we've actually, it's not just with students. We've run into this with faculty and staff as well. What happens is the system pre-populated everything. And it's the primary email that's loaded within the A&M system. So that's generally your TAMU email. Now, sometimes it can be also blocked to your Gmail or what other emails you've got set up as your primary. And in some cases, we end up in the spam folders. Now you can check in with the COVID-19 test email or check in with the people there. They'll just need to see your ID and take a look at it. You're not alone. We've run into that. We're trying to correct it, but I'll be honest, it's just an issue of potentially the emails that are loaded in, or depending on which one of the systems you utilize, sometimes there's issues loading in the email that people hand in enter. That's why we try to do most things automatically, or it's a spam folder. So it's not huge, but there is a small portion that we're aware that happens.
Mr. Speaker, can I follow up briefly?
Briefly.
So for all students like myself and others, the university has a record of said negative tests. So I am still in compliance with the procedures and protocols that are out there. The only concern is I just never received the results.
Well, we want you to receive your results.
Right.
That's a key portion of this. Now, if not getting into your particular situation, if your results were positive, you would also get a phone call, and you'd get a phone call really quickly. Okay. If you are using what we refer to as the Texas A&M test, which is essentially drooling into the tub, or sorry, the tube, not the tub, the tube. Way too much drool for a tub. Essentially, what that does is we analyze that within the Global Health Research Complex. So the positives are notified, or the presumptive positives are notified really quickly. Now, you should be in compliance. The one thing the caveat I would have is, if you didn't click on the email, and I'm just using you as an example, so you is the capital Y. If someone hand entered in their UIN or hand entered in, this was one of the issues we ran into during the random testing program, is there was a lot of transcription errors. So someone says their UIN and maybe they say it correctly, but it's entered incorrectly, or maybe they drop a digit or confuse it with their SOCH. Those are some of the issues we've run into. We tried to automate the system to reduce that. You probably noticed in the fall that the difference between the completion of the random testing program and then the publication of our data from the random testing program took about 2 weeks. That's because that's how long the data cleaning took for that, because we were having to hand go in and look up unmatching UINs and then compare it to the email that we had on record. And oftentimes students would put in their Gmail or other emails, and we get that, but then it doesn't match one of the A&M records, and then we would have to go back and forth. So if you entered everything incorrectly, yes, you are compliant, and yes, that is uploaded to the system, and you'd be fine.
With that, I'd like to recognize Chair Jeffress with a motion.
Chair Jeffress, Academic Affairs. I move to extend the period of question and answer by 2 minutes.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move to extend the period of question and answer by 2 minutes via general consent. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass. And with 3 minutes remaining in question and answer, Senator Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. Dr. Gibbs, first off, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your work so far to our university. The main question that I would have for you right now is, how is the reopening as well as the vaccination, how is all of that going to affect on-campus housing? Because if there's people who are affected probably the most by COVID, it is people in dorms, since they are in such close proximity to others. How is the university going to deal with this? And what is the plan around this as we reopen the university?
So we're monitoring on-campus housing on a daily basis. I get an update in regards to isolation, quarantine data 3 times a week. So we're very aware as to what's going on. Additionally, you guys probably read about this. We're also doing wastewater testing on campus. So we get updates in regards to, yeah, it's a glamorous job. So we get updates in regards to what level of virus that we're seeing, and then we can deploy some of our testing teams to certain areas. We are going to be doing the testing blitzes every 2 or 3 weeks, as I indicated before. But to be blunt, to normal anytime soon. We're going to be in this heightened state of awareness through spring, into summer, and probably moving into fall, depending upon vaccine uptake. Vaccine uptake will have no impact on us positively. Sorry, in a good way. I don't want to say positively since, in a good way early on, mainly because the student population, for the most part, isn't likely to be receiving a lot of vaccine in the spring. You tend to be young and healthy. I haven't seen the priority list for Texas. I've seen the priority list for Texas phase A and B. They haven't released what 1C is going to be. I wouldn't guess that universities are going to be high on that list. Additionally, this is a vaccine that's approved under what's called emergency use authorization. So it hasn't received full FDA approval. So there wouldn't be a requirement associated with vaccines this spring. We'd have to wait till full approval and then also go through a number of others before we can start getting vaccines into people on large scale. And then 30 seconds, so I'll pause. By the way, as you guys are making your next motion, you're my last meeting of the day, so I can stay here as long as you guys want to listen to me.
So I would like to recognize Chair Ahmed with a motion.
Chair Ahmed, Off-Campus Caucus, Diversity and Inclusion. I would move to extend the Q&A period by 2 more minutes.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds in the chat, we will move by general consent to extend the period of question and answer by 2 minutes. Do I see any objections to general consent? Seeing none, that does pass, and we will have 2 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in the period of question and answer. Chair Ahmed.
Hi, Mr. Gibbs. Thank you for coming to present to us. I did have a question. I did notice that recently in the past, the COVID testing on campus did not ask for insurance, but now it does. And there is some concern from students. If they are uninsured, can they still get tested? And how does that process work? So I know this is kind of a new change because when I got tested before I left for winter break, that was not included in like the form. So I guess if you can give us some clarity as to why that was added and if uninsured students can still get tested for COVID. You're muted, sir.
So to be clear, there's at least 3 different types of tests that are available. There's a PCR-based test that's available through Student Health Services. There's also, which is the nasal swab. There's also the curative, which is the mouth swab. The curative mouth swab is the one that's asking for your insurance information. Now, the Texas A&M test, which is the drool into the tube, will not ask for your insurance information. You can get the curative test and you can get the Texas A&M test with no charge to the student. They ask for your insurance information because under the CARES Act, it's reimbursable through insurance. That was part of the deal we negotiated with essentially Curative to help us recoup some of the costs associated with it. Now, if you are an uninsured student and you don't have insurance, they will still test you at the Curative site. They're just going to bill Texas A&M for that, and we will pay for it. That will not be billed to the student. Now, if you're a student and you don't have symptoms, I'd recommend that you go to the Texas A&M test. Number one, they're not going to ask you that information. And to be honest, we've got a quicker turnaround right now.
Are there any other questions for our presenter? Seeing none, that will conclude our period. Oh, excuse me, I do see one in the chat. Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Gibbs, my question is in line with I guess, if a student tests positive, they believe they may have a false positive. Do they have the opportunity to take multiple other tests to verify that that is indeed positive? If someone's going to have to isolate for 14 days, I would want to make sure it was 100% sure that's what the situation is. Is that still an option? Is that a policy that has been implemented, or any form of positive test is an automatic requiring said isolation?
Well, it'll depend upon, well, two things. Number one, isolation is roughly about 10 days, 10 days with 2 days with no symptoms. And there's also been changes to the quarantine policies. And if we got a question on that later, I can talk about quarantine policies. I can tell you, if you're taking the test, Texas A&M, we actually do what's called cycle thresholds, and we have a higher number of cycle thresholds. So the A&M test, we can actually pick up a smaller amount of virus. So oftentimes when people hear false positive, what they think of is some sort of error or a laboratory error. The majority of the time, what happens is if someone has a small amount of virus, a few things can happen. Number one, they could have just inhaled some virus but not been infected. Or what can happen is they may be at the early stage of infection, which would then a second test would confirm it. Or they could be at the latter stage of infection, at which case the secondary case wouldn't confirm it. Now, we actually, the Brazos County Health Department's the one who has authority over this. So it is their decision in regards to the confirmation testing. I can tell you what we do for the A&M test is we send someone for confirmation testing through the curative test as a backup.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Seeing as that is all of the time that we have in question and answer, we will go ahead and conclude that period of question and answer. And Dr. Gibbs, thank you so much for being here with us today and presenting to us and answering all of our questions. I know it's always a pleasure to talk with you, and we appreciate you being here.
Happy to do so, and feel free to invite me back sometime. I'd be happy to answer. Last thing I just want to make sure everyone's clear about is even once you guys start getting vaccines, the full 95% immunity for most of the vaccines doesn't kick in until about 2 or 3 weeks after that second dose. Additionally, none of those studies that were done on the vaccines were done to determine if people could be not ill but still spread the disease. So even once we start getting good vaccine uptake, we're still going to have to continue with physical distancing and masking. We're aware of the strain this is taking on you guys. I'm working with a number of groups trying to get as much activities on campus that we can do safely. As many of you know, we've been doing some of the athletic events. We've been doing breakaway. We've been opening up some of the other events that are in line with a lot of the compliance. We're working with the big event group and so on. So thanks for having me. You guys have a good day.
Absolutely. And Dr. Gibbs, we look forward to continuing to partner with you and hopefully seeing you again soon. And with that, that will conclude our period of special presentation. We'll now move into a period of unfinished business. Our first piece of unfinished business is to move back into executive session. Primary author is Chair Ahmed. Chair Ahmed, is there anyone else you'd like to present with you?
Yes, if we can please have Erica Pauls unmuted.
All right, y'all should be set and you do have the floor.
Yes, so howdy Senate. My name is Erica Pauls and I'm the president of the Matthew Gaines Society. So basically what we're trying to do with this resolution is we're trying to have a question about the awareness about Matthew Gaines put into the spring 2021 spring election survey, just so we can get a good amount of people that know who Matthew Gaines is and what we're working towards. You know, we've done a lot of work towards outreach, and we really want to see if it has grown since the last time we've done a survey, which was in 2018. So without further ado, I'm gonna just go ahead and read Community Model, read line by line the resolution. So whereas 1, the Texas A&M University Student Senate serves as the official voice of the students at Texas A&M University.
And whereas 2, Senator Matthew Gaines made great contributions to the creation of Texas A&M University, and
along with the work of the Matthew Gaines Society with the commemoration of an on-campus statue, they work towards highlighting the contributions of Senator Matthew Gaines, and
Whereas 4, before the construction of the society, a poll put out by the SGA Executive Communications Committee in the spring of 2018 showed that a mere 16% of students who responded to the survey said they had knowledge of the works of Senator Matthew Gaines. And
whereas 5, the Matthew Gaines Society has done great work towards outreach and awareness of Senator Matthew Gaines and wishes to track their efforts through a campus-wide poll. And
whereas 6, Texas A&M University's past president Michael K. Young and current chancellor John Sharp have shown immense support for this project and have even financially supported the construction of the statue of Senator Gaines on campus. And
the goal of this resolution is to gain support from the student Senate body to conduct an official student opinion poll through the spring 2021 election season ballot to assess the awareness and knowledge of the contributions made by Senator Matthew Gaines to Texas A&M University.
Therefore, let it be resolved, the Texas A&M Student Senate aims to assist the Matthew Gaines Society in raising awareness of Senator Matthew Gaines and his contribution to Texas A&M University as they have done in the past. And
therefore, let it be resolved, the Texas A&M University Student Senate, Senate supports adding a question of, are you aware of Senator Matthew Gaines and the contributions he made towards the establishment of Texas A&M to the upcoming February 2021 Student Government Association election ballot.
And let it be further resolved. 4, a copy of this resolution be sent to the Matthew Gaines Society, Chancellor John Sharp, President Michael K. Young, Dr. Daniel J. Pugh, Senior Vice President of Student Affairs, Sarah Hamilton, Doctoral Assistant, Vice President of Student Affairs, Kara Maxwell, TAMU SGA Election Commissioner, and the battalion. And with that, we are open to questions.
Presenters are open for questions. Are there any questions at this time? Chair Teague.
I'll yield my time to Chair Hine.
Chair Hine.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. Thank you, Chair Teague. So I totally understand what y'all are trying to do with putting it on the election ballot, but should we be concerned that if we allow this to be put on the election ballot, that more organizations are going to want to start using the student body election ballot to ask questions about the organization, and then we have pages and pages of questions that defer students from actually voting on the ballot? Or is that just something y'all didn't, or like, what are y'all's opinions on that? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. The reason why I wanted it, as a society, we wanted to be put on the spring election ballots because it does have a wide reach. And we know that other initiatives have done the same thing. I remember when the REC was trying to expand, I think it was like my sophomore year, they had their question on. And also the rivalry, reinstate the rivalry was also a question. So this is something that has been done before. So that's why I didn't think this was necessarily much different if we were to do the same thing, if that makes sense.
And to add to that, I do think it is a little different because Matthew Gaines was actually birthed in Student Senate. The whole initiative was born in Student Senate in the 70th session, if I'm correct. And so I do think it's a little different because Matthew Gaines does have that relationship with SGA, which would probably limit other organizations from all wanting to be on the ballot.
And I will say, before I spoke to Kara Maxwell, the election commissioner, and she even was like, when I asked her to have this question, she was like, actually, we would like to make sure that this is something the student body wants. So if I were you, she's the one who suggested me to go through Senate and make sure that y'all approved of it before I was able to even get that through her. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for you, Ms. Pauls. Is the Matthew Gaines Society a SGA committee such as the Big Event or 12th Can, et cetera? Are y'all affiliated with SGA in that way?
We're not.
And I will have to pause you for just a second to recognize Senator Chunga Pizarro with a point of order.
Senator Chunga Pizarro, off-campus caucus. I believe Chair Teague's out of order. He didn't state his chair position.
Seeing as that is correct, the question will be withdrawn. Are there any other questions for the presenters at this time? Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. So again, my question, Ms. Pauls, is just, is the Matthew Gaines Society an official SGA committee?
No, we're not official SGA committee. I think when Iman said that, she kind of meant that we were kind of reignited within the Student Senate when y'all passed the resolutions in support of it in the 70th session.
Yeah, and then just to clarify, this has been done before by like non-affiliates like the REC, and also Reinstate the Rivalry, which was an initiative that was launched by some senators and others.
Are there any other questions for the presenter? Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. I yield my time to Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Permission to preface briefly?
Very briefly.
Thank you. As you both know, I'm a huge supporter of the Matthew Gaines Initiative. I think it's really important, and I know Erica works incredibly hard on it. And if we were in the room right now, I expect to hear lots of ring claps for all of her hard work. But one question I have, and from more of a statistical point of view, is if you did the survey through Quadralix or another university element with the support of SGA, is it possible to get a better breakdown of those resources so that way you can better engage with marketing and things as a tool for you? I think it might be in the better interest if you did it that way. I still support it, but is there another alternative, or what was the reason why you wanted on the ballot versus doing it through Quadralix?
So the main reason why we did want it on the ballot is so we can have that widespread, like we wanted as much people to conduct in the survey as possible. So that was kind of like our main reasoning for doing this venue during this process instead.
Yeah, and if you've seen Whereas 4, we did mention that in 2018, that survey was sent out via SGA, and it only got over 100 responses, and majority of those responses were internally, like from members of SGA, so it was a very low response rate, and only 16% of them even knew about Gaines. So compared to that, our ballot for 1,000 to 2,000 students, depending on the election and the race. So it's really to get as much outreach as possible.
And with that, that is all of the time that we have in question and answer. So that will conclude the period of question and answer, and we'll now move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against? And remember, if you do have debate, you can utilize the raised hand tool to signify so. Chair Teague, you do have the floor in debate against.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. While I certainly don't mind questioning the student body or polling the student body, I fail to see, as admitted by the authors of this bill, why a non-SGA committee has any place on this ballot. Second to that, using Quadratics would allow you to really hone in on the demographics that you should be marketing to. It'll break it down by gender, it'll break it down by major, by college, etc., which is going to be, again, not a statistics major, but I can imagine that being able to tell just exactly who you need to market to is going to be pretty huge.
That is the time that we have in debate against. So I'm going to have to stop you there. We're going to move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Chair Ahmed, you have the floor in debate 4.
Heidi Senate, Chair Ahmed, Off-Campus Caucus, Diversity and Inclusion. I think Chair Teague does bring some valid points, but as this polling method has been used by non-SGA affiliates, that precedent has been already set. And while Matthew Gaines Society may not be an SGA right now, it could possibly in the future, we don't know. But following that, both of you are mentioning Quadratics. Are you speaking about Qualtrics? I think that is the program y'all might be referring to. And like I said, like in the past, there was a survey that was conducted, and that one did get very minimal responses. And because students are constantly getting surveys, especially because of COVID through emails, there is a high chance that this won't get very high responses. I've met with SLS in the past, and they have mentioned that they barely get responses in their surveys because of the influx students are getting with the e-learning environment. And so
That is
we do
time on
this-
debate, so I'm going to have to stop you there, and that's going to conclude our period of debate 4. We're going to move back into the second round of debate, beginning with a period of debate against. Do I see any debate against? Senator Smith, you have the floor and debate against.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Smith, Coles Caucus. I just want to echo what Chair Hine discussed. I think that we have to seriously be worried about reducing student involvement in our elections with cluttering up the ballot. And I think we can probably answer this question for ourselves. You know, educating students, I think, is a good idea. I come to you as not only a supporter of the Matthew Gaines Initiative, but also as a donor. So I think we should try everything we can to educate students, but maybe not try and clutter up the ballot. So I'll yield the remainder of my time to Chair Hine.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. I think it's a great idea to have an outreach poll, but like Tyler Smith said, Senator Smith said, I don't think having it on the student body ballot is a good idea, but I know that SGA has
Chair
done
Hine,
more
I am going to have
polls.
to stop you there, as that is the
They've
time
got more
of
outreach.
debate. We'll now move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Chair Jeffries.
Chair Jeffries, Academic Affairs. I feel like this isn't a huge stretch due to the fact that we extend our ballot to multiple organizations, including the Honor Council, the Honor Student Council, RHA, class presidents. So we already include many other organizations within our ballots. So adding a one question, yes or no, doesn't seem like a huge leap in order for us to incorporate it into our ballot. And this would take maybe, I don't know, less than 15 seconds for any individual to do. And it doesn't really seem like a huge driver away from the ballot. I yield the rest of my time to Chair Ahmed.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Chair Jeffries has said. And I think with that moving forward, I do want you to keep in mind that Senate has the power to decide in later.
I'm going to have to stop you there, as that is time for that period of debate. We'll now move into our third and final round of debate, beginning with debate against. Senator Martin, you have the floor in debate against.
Thank you, Senator Martin, Liberal Arts Caucus. To echo some of the sentiments that I heard before, I would say that this kind of establishes a precedent that I don't know if we want to go into. I think if we're going to make the case that this should be on a ballot, I think you can make the case for almost any other non-SGA group. If we really want to get polling on this, I think that there's more of an effective way than posting one question on a ballot. I think that would be by going either through the Constituency Affairs Committee or whatever way we can get polling from it. But I think that this establishes a precedent that I don't know if we really want to get into. I yield my time to Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Senator Martin, Chair Teague, Finance. I guess in closing here, I fail to see what a poll will change at the end of the day. The Senate has voted to—
Chair Teague, unfortunately, I do have to stop you there, as that is the amount of time that we have for that debate against. We'll now move into the final period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Chair Ahmed.
Chair Ahmed, Off-Campus Caucus, Diversity and Inclusion. So just the last few things.
Point of order.
Yes.
Chair Hine, Rules and Regulations. So a speaker can only debate on a piece twice, and this is Chair Ahmed's third time debating. The Robert's Rules of Order debate rule is each senator gets 2 times to debate for a total of 5 minutes on the same piece. So Chair Ahmed is out of order.
Seeing as that is the case, Chair Ahmed is out of order, but there still is a period of debate 4. Do I see any other debate 4? Seeing none, that will conclude the final period of debate 4 and will conclude our period of debate as well. And we'll now move into a period of voting on this resolution, SR 7337, the Matthew Gaines Outreach Poll Resolution. The voting link can be found on the agenda as well as in the chat. And I will hand it over to Pro Tempore Trosclair for the rest of the vote.
Well, howdy, Senate. Oh, there's my picture. Okay. You guys have until 8:16 to go ahead and get that filled out, and we'll go on from there. All right, folks. With 40, there are 41 votes in affirmation, 11 votes against, and 3 in abstention.
With that, SR 7337, the Matthew Gaines Outreach Poll, does pass. We'll now move into the consideration of SR 7338, the Congratulating Texas A&M Football Resolution. Senator Garcia, I believe you are the primary author. Do you have any other presenters to unmute with you?
Chair Ahmed.
All right, y'all should be good to go. You have the floor.
All right, howdy Senate. So today we will be presenting a resolution which congratulates our football team on having such a phenomenal season. And let's get started. All right, so whereas one, due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic in August, the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey declared that Texas A&M University and the remaining SEC schools had to play an all-conference schedule within the SEC with a new football season starting date of September 26, 2020. And
Whereas two, in addition, Kyle Field had to implement a reduced capacity plan, which limited game day attendance to 25% of the overall stadium capacity, alongside increased cleaning and sanitation procedures, mask requirements, and increased physical spacing to allow for social distancing. And
whereas three, throughout the season, Texas A&M remained a ranked football team and was constantly ranked number 5th in the country by the AP poll and the College Football Playoff Committee. And
whereas four, despite the pandemic, adhering to new guidelines, having the Ole Miss game rescheduled and then canceled, and having to compete in an all SEC schedule, our Fighting Texas Aggie football team went 8-1 in conference play. And
whereas five, the Texas A&M football team competed in the toughest conference in college football. And while they did not make the college football playoff, many Aggies believed that they deserved to make it through. And
whereas six, despite not getting into the college football playoff, Texas A&M remained ranked number 5 in the country and received an invitation to play in the Orange Bowl, one of the New Year's 6 bowls in college football, in which they played the number 13 ranked University of North Carolina Tar Heels. And
whereas seven, Texas A&M culminated its season winning the Orange Bowl, beating the North Carolina Tar Heels 41-27, and finished ranked number 4 by the AP poll, making it the most successful season Texas A&M football has had since winning the national championship in 1939. And
therefore, let it be resolved, the 73rd session of Texas A&M Student Senate proudly supports and celebrates the success that the Texas A&M football team has had this season, both on and off the field. And
let it be further resolved to the 73rd session of the Texas A&M Student Senate commends all staff for making attending games at Kyle Field as safe and enjoyable as possible for fans, and for adhering to all safety protocols. And
let it be further resolved 3, the 73rd session of Texas A&M Student Senate stands with all our student athletes as they continue to play in the face of this pandemic and reaffirm our support for any of their needs. And
let it be further resolved for the 73rd Student Senate acknowledges that although our beloved university didn't make the college football playoff, the Fighting Texas Aggies had an amazing season, and we look forward to the 2021 season. For as head football coach Jimbo Fisher said, we ain't done yet. And
let it be further resolved 5, a copy of this resolution be sent to Dr. Daniel J. Pugh Sr., Vice President of Student Affairs, Ross Bajor, Director of Athletics, Jimbo Fisher, head football coach, and the battalion. And with that, we are open to questions.
Senators are open for questions. Are there any questions at this time? Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Smith, Coles Caucus. Guys, I was wondering, do you know if it would be possible for us to send a copy of this to the senior athletes on the football team who are leaving and not returning?
I think that definitely could be arranged. I think what would have to happen, and Megan, Chair Hein, and President Trosclair, please correct me. I think we would just have to put all of their names, like have an amendment to put all of their names in the last, let it be further resolved 5, and we would just need to link those contact emails so that Pro Temp Trosclair can then get those sent out. But please jump in if that is correct, or if that can maybe be done after the legislation is voted on.
Are there any other questions for our presenters? And just as a note, Chair Ahmed is correct.
Thank you.
Chair Ahmed, do I see a question?
Actually, do have a point of inquiry because Chair Hein did say that the emails can be added after the passage. Would we need an amendment to include all of their names to be sent to and let it be further resolved 5? Or could that also be done post voting on the piece?
And Chair Hine, for this point of inquiry, I will defer to you.
Chair Hine, rules and regulations. From the code perspective, if you want to just put as like a copy of the resolution be sent to all of the seniors not returning on the football team, that's fine. Or you can list them out. It just has to be in some capacity that's like defining who it's being sent to, and then that way you can include all the emails. But if you don't want to find all their names right now, because I don't even know if all of them have decided if they're coming back or not, if you just want to put like seniors not returning, that's totally fine, and then include the emails later.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions for our presenters? Seeing none, that will conclude our period of question and answer. We'll now move into a period of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against at this time? Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Smith, Coles Caucus. I'd like to make a motion to include at the end of let it be further resolved 5 senior athletes who are not returning for the 2021 football season, or whatever. This might be out of order, but whatever Chair Hines said that I needed to do.
Seeing multiple seconds in the chat, Executive Director Marbut, if you could please reflect that amendment in the document. We'll now move into a period of debate on this amendment to change let it be further resolved 5 so that it includes all senior athletes on the football team who are not returning. If we could also put in there, I believe there was a mention of football players after athletes for the specificity piece.
Speaker McHugh, would you like this to read all senior football players that are not returning for the 2021 football season?
Yeah, and I will defer to Senator Smith just to make sure, since this is his amendment, that wording is acceptable there.
Yes. Sorry, it wouldn't let me unmute.
Senator Smith, will you confirm that this looks correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, we'll now move into the period of debate against on this amendment. Chair Teague, you do have the floor in debate against.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. I move to amend the motion, or excuse me, amend the resolution to add myself and those that would like to this as sponsors.
And is that as a separate motion, or is that amending the motion we are currently considering?
I apologize, Mr. Speaker. I had my hand raised from a long time ago and thought we were back in that withdrawal.
That has been withdrawn. You do still have the floor, though, in debate against on this amendment.
Yield back to the floor.
The floor has been yielded to. We'll now move into a period of debate for this amendment. Do I see any debate for? Seeing none, we'll move back into debate against. Do I see any further debate against? And seeing none, debate has become one-sided. I do want to recognize, though, Pro Tempore Trosclair with a point of inquiry.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, is it, if Are their emails public domain? Do we have access to those?
That is a great question that I do not know, but I'm sure we can find them.
Thank you.
And I'm seeing in the chat that they are. Thank you, Chair Jeffress. So then with that, that does conclude our period of debate on this amendment. We'll now move into a period of voting to amend Let It Be Further Resolved 5 so that it includes all senior football players that are not returning for the 2021 football season. We'll move to approve this amendment by general consent. Do I see any objections to general consent? And seeing no objections, that does pass, and that amendment will be attached to this piece of legislation. We'll now move back into the period of debate against. Senator Smith, I do believe you have the floor in debate against.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Senator Smith. Chair Teague, Finance, I move to amend this resolution to add myself and those who would like to as sponsors.
Do I see any seconds? Seeing multiple seconds, we will move to amend this piece of legislation to attach Chair Teague as well as any others who fill out the form found on the drive as sponsors to this piece of legislation. Do I see any objections to doing so by general consent? Seeing no objections, that will be the case. We will add Chair Teague as well as any others who fill out the form found on the drive to sponsors on this piece of legislation. Chair Teague, you do still have the floor and debate against.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Point of personal preference. Could we, I know that this may not be considered a spelling error in the resolution, but I'd just like to call attention to all of the G's at the end of Fighting Texas Aggies and note that those be changed back to Fighting Texas Aggies before this resolution is sent out. Thank you.
Seeing as that is a point of personal privilege, as that's not a typical grammar error, I'm not sure if we can correct that without an amendment. Chair Hein, I will defer to you on that though.
Chair Hein, Rules and Regulations. It probably would have been better to be worded as a point of information, but since it has to do with the spelling of the word, I'm going to say that we don't need an amendment. Just make note of it before it's sent out. Yes, Tyler, as Senator Smith said, he said that's Aggie grammar. So we'll consider it grammar.
All right, then that is our official ruling. Thank you for the point of personal preference. And again, the floor has been yielded to. So we'll now move into a period of debate 4. Do I see any debate 4? Seeing none, that will conclude the first round of debate. We'll now move into our second round of debate, beginning with debate against. Do I see any debate against? Seeing none, debate has become one-sided, and that will conclude our period of debate. We'll now move into a period of voting, led by Speaker Pro Tem Porch Rossclair.
Well, howdy, folks. We have reached the final Jeopardy of the evening. Let's go ahead and be back by 8:36, if that's okay. Well, howdy, folks. We have the results in 54 in favor and with 1 abstention.
And with that vote, SR 7338, the congratulating Texas A&M football resolution does indeed pass. Gig'em, I will now conclude our period of new business and move into a period of open session. Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair, do we have any pieces in the open session drive?
1 second, Mr. Speaker. My apologies. We do not have any legislation in the open session folder.
Seeing none, that will conclude our period of open session. We'll now move into a period of committee reports, beginning with Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair.
All right, well, howdy, Senate. I have a few brief reminders. The first one is if you did not get the email or may have not filled out the email prior to this meeting, there was an email sent out, I believe, either on Sunday or Monday night, asking you guys to fill it out. Even if you don't, and if going in the future, even if you don't intend on coming in person, and I know today had some extraordinary circumstances, I ask that you still fill that out so we know who's coming, who's not coming. We worked really hard this week on getting some placards printed, and Carrie's going to give you a few updates about that later. But other than that, I really don't have anything else. IA meeting this week went great, so I'm excited for the rest of the semester.
Are there any questions for Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair? Seeing none, thank you, Pro Tem Trosclair. Chair Hein.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Hein, Rules and Regulations. I am really excited to be back with Senate. Hopefully we will have our hybrid meetings coming up in the next meeting. If you're on my committee, please be taking a look in the Slack. I'm going to send out a doodle poll in order to work out our committee meeting times and if anyone's okay with meeting in person. And then I know the debate rule caught everyone a little off guard. I will be holding a presentation next meeting in open forum just to go over that. That was just something that I found as I was studying for my accredited parliamentarian exam today. So I will be going over that. But if you have any questions, just let me know. And to that, I yield to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Hein? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Hein. Chair Teague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Teague, Finance. As usual, the Finance Committee continues to work to ensure that student fee money is spent and appropriated accordingly. Thanks to Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair, I believe that all of those previously passed bills, GLC especially has been sent to GLC, as well as the Election Commission's movement of some money was sent to accounting. So they're all good to go. I yield the remainder of my time to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Teague? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Teague. Chair Ahmed.
Hi, Senate. Thank you for passing both of those pieces. Super excited about that. Some updates for me is D&I committee meetings will be at 6 on bi-weekly Wednesdays. So feel free to pop in. It will help your absences. So please feel free to come to our meetings. Me and the Diversity Commissioner will be planning to have a meeting with Dr. McGowan, who is the interim VP of Diversity at the moment. So if any of you are interested in joining that meeting or have any questions you'd like to ask us, please contact me. And outside of that, the ACE Awards are coming up, which happens through the DMS and the Office of Diversity. Those nominations will begin January 25th. And later down the line, my committee and the Diversity Commission are the ones who select the winner for some of those awards. So please be on the lookout for that, and I'll bring in some more information as we get it. And with that, I have open questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Ahmed? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Ahmed. We'll now go to Chair Jeffress.
Howdy, Senate. As always, my committee report can be found in my committee folder in the drive. I'm really excited to work with my committee on the whole host of projects we have going on, and I can't wait to see them at our next committee meeting the 30th. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Chair Jeffress? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Jeffress. Chair Feldman.
Sorry about that. Howdy, Senate. Chair Feldman here. Really glad to be back. Looking forward to that hybrid meeting in 2 weeks here. On the LR side, we've got a lot of stuff coming up. Obviously, the legislative session is in full swing. Unfortunately, right now, it's still a lot more on the strict side when it comes to visitation there. But we will have some more stuff coming up on the pipeline, especially on the bill side. So look forward to that. The maroon and orange legislative day has applications out. If you are interested in it, please let me know. The deadline is this Sunday. If you'd like more details on that, it is very focused on legislative advocacy. I've notified the LR committee, but if you would want more details on that, please text me, send me an email, DM me on Slack, and I can give you more about that. Besides that, I am open to questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Feldman? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Feldman. Chair Syed.
Chair Syed, Student Services. Howdy, Senate, and welcome back. I'm excited for this semester. So some quick updates. If you have not seen on social media yet, the Gaines bus route was released on January 5th. So that was about 2 weeks ago, and that was just a really great effort to see from various different student organizations, and Senate also pushing for that and seeing it happen. We will be having a committee meeting next week. We're finalizing the date for that, but that should be available in the Slack by Friday. And we have a couple of different projects that we are looking at within dining and safety and security. And I am open to any questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Syed? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Syed. And we'll now go to Chair Rodriguez.
Howdy, Senate. Chair Rodriguez, Constituency Affairs. Hope you guys had a fabulous break and staying safe out there. I know with COVID and everything, but just a couple of updates. So my next committee meeting will be next Wednesday at 7 p.m. They will be bi-weekly to our Senate meetings. Next week's meeting might be a little short. It is my birthday, but I will send a Zoom link over to the Slack channel. My office hours will also be next Wednesday, bi-weekly of Senate from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Also, let me know if you ever want to meet up or do anything in person. I'm free to meet if you have any questions. Next meeting, we're going to be working on setting up caucus leaders to schedule a meeting with the respective deans. So hopefully everybody can make it so that we can get that going. Also, Ag Input will be going out before the end of this month. And there will be a newsletter with it just to inform the student body of what Senate's getting done and all the accomplishments as well. But feel free to ask me any questions if you guys have any. Text me, call me, FaceTime me. But other than that, I'm open to questions.
Senator Martin.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Rodriguez. I was wanting to ask just a question about Ag Input for November. I noticed that there wasn't any real mention of the pass or fail. I was wondering if you could expand upon that a little bit and as to why that wasn't included in the Ag Input for November.
Yes, so I know we did have that in the Ag Input for October, so we kind of didn't want to repeat that question because we didn't want it to be repetitive. And at that time, we kind of knew administration was not really willing push for that. So with the data that we did have from the October Ag Input, we used that as a utilization tool to help push for the pass-fail initiative we did have going into the end of last semester.
Are there any further questions for Chair Rodriguez? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Rodriguez, and an early happy birthday to you. Chair Oldeg.
Howdy, Senate. It's good to be back. The only things I have from CR are that we're meeting next week on Wednesday, bi-weekly all from Senates. I have been keeping track of the residency occupancy overlay and sitting in on meetings kind of over break, just listening to a lot of different presentations on updates and stuff going on with that. I am also in our meeting next week, we're going to be talking about a new resolution, just kind of finalizing the tiebreaker that happened with city council members in the last semester. John Nichols was the winner of that tiebreaker, and then also including Bob Brick for the, I'm sorry, Bob Brick was the tiebreaker. John Nichols was the runoff. Yes, that's correct. And then we'll also be talking about that small business initiative and getting started on that also, as we talked about last semester. And I think that's all the updates I have and everything that's going on in our meeting next week. Does anyone have any questions?
Are there any questions for Chair Oldeg? Seeing none, thank you, Chair Oldeg. Executive Director Marbut.
Howdy, Senate. Welcome back. Just a few quick things. This past Sunday, the 17th, you should have received an email from Pro Temp Trosclair regarding what you would like your placard for Senate meetings if you attend in person to read. I'm asking that everybody, if you haven't already responded to that Google form, please do so before tomorrow, Thursday, January 21st at 5 p.m. Even if you do not have plans of attending in person or you aren't able to in the coming weeks, please send that information so that we have it in case Senate goes to a fully all in-person format. And then next, following this meeting, the recording will be uploaded to YouTube by Ops, as well as making vote counts and attendance put and updated. And I think that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Are there any questions for Executive Director Marbut? Seeing none, thank you, Executive Director Marbut. That'll conclude our period of committee reports, and we'll move into a period of executive reports, beginning with SVP Mendoza.
Howdy, can you hear me, Speaker McHugh? Perfect. Glad that didn't happen again. Well, howdy, Senate. Good to be with you to start this semester. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, good break that was a little longer than usual, which I know was fantastic, but also makes it a little bit harder to come back and get back to normal. But it's good to see you guys. Hope the new year has been good thus far. I know it started off good. Was happy to see that football resolution. Whoop to that. And want that same for the rest of our baseball and all that stuff starting this semester. So should be fun. I also saw at least Senator Allen in the chat. So glad to see that he's back virtually, at least healthy, I hope. So good to see that. Cole, there you are. Glad to see you're back. So this semester, Dr. Gibbs, I think I heard the tail end of his remarks, and I think obviously he is the best person to speak on anything really happening at A&M right now. But I think a lot of us had hoped that this semester would be radically different, or at least visibly different from the fall semester. I think in some ways it might be, but generally speaking, a lot of it is the same, as you can see from the fall semester. But I do think we have a lot of potential, and I hope the ability for the tail end of this semester to start to see the light at the end of the tunnel towards some sense of reality. And of course, that will be reflected on whatever the state, nation, world around us is able to do. So in that, we are, of course, in cabinet starting to get the ball rolling again on a lot of things that we had been working on in the fall, but also just recurring pieces. So Cabinet will meet for the first time all together this upcoming Sunday, our one-on-ones, and we'll have a retreat, and also our top staff meetings. So a lot of what I'll be doing this next week or so is continuing to meet one-on-one with all of our team again. I was pleased with where we left off in the fall, and we still have our own individual one-pagers. And I think a lot of them should have some really, really good work to share with y'all this semester. I'm thinking specifically of our diversity commission with Lily, a lot of really exciting stuff they're doing. I know Amon knows about that, and she's helped with it. Chuck Med. Our traditions enrichment team had some really, really great work with Mike, VP Rivera last semester. I hope a lot of that comes to fruition. I know Chair Teague and the finance team was helpful and the funds aspect of it. So a lot of our team members, I think, are going to be having really good results this semester to share. We're beginning our newsletters again starting in February for welcome back stuff. Our committees will have stuff to share. They've begun from whether it's muster. I know they're shooting their posters very soon. We've got the big event planning. 12th Can is open starting tomorrow, I believe, from 10 to 4:30 p.m. a.m. to p.m. They actually just opened, 12th Can did, their freezer trailer. So for the first time ever, they will have frozen or meat. They will have the ability to give them meat when they come to the pantry. I think they had, I want to say 100 pounds already to pass out if anyone goes and takes advantage of the 12th Can. So that's exciting. Not quite the building they want yet, but it's a really good start to kind of expand what they have to offer our students, faculty, and staff. So with that, we're also, obviously we had a very large transition for a lot of roles before this new year, but during the break primarily with our outgoing president and interim president, and same with the provost and vice president of diversity positions as well. So I've met and communicated with all of them. Hope to meet with some of the ones I haven't yet. So we're working on that kind of transition. They are understandably busy with that transition. So some things are falling through. We know that, I think I've spoken to Senator McKnight before the break, and Pro Temp Trusclair as well, about hopefully a piece with the provost and the registrar about a letter that students can request, same as I do a transcript, about pass fail, and basically just stating what the grade accommodations were and were not for the fall semester. If the students want that, still working on that. The former team liked it, so the current team is busy, but it's on their plate. I've put it back up there. So a lot of things are up there. If you guys have other ideas, please let us know. We also did an end of semester survey that had about 30 questions in it, including pass fail, mental health, resources, those kind of things. We got input from the provost's office, the president's office looked at it. We got input from the faculty senate. So they put a question or two in there, and we're going to share all data with them. It is complete. We had about 2,000 plus responses and that were completed. And it was through SLS. So it's representative of our populations, including graduate students as well, which is exciting. Last I heard, and we'll see the data starting tomorrow, it is about 600 pages worth of data. So it's quite a lot, and I'll share with y'all when able, so probably very soon. I think about 200 pages of that is just comments. So we hope a lot of that is comments from students that we can put into place and share with y'all in terms of actionable pieces that we can put forth this semester for students. They took the time to write them, so we'll definitely sift through them. So that's something exciting that we hope to share. Howdy Week is currently ongoing through new student-friendly programs. Oriana, EVP Coot, and I were really pleased that the Howdy Week committee liked our idea enough to do the first ever Howdy Week for the spring semester, which is the one going on now. Our SGA committee's big event, 12th Can, not 12th Can, big event, Traditions Council, as well as Muster, hosted a live at noon today, actually, with that. So that was exciting to see. And let's see, I think a lot of that was touched on. But the final thing I'll share is we do have 2 vacancies within cabinet. So we're working to fill those, hope to have those before you all on the 3rd of February. So to have the materials to you all on the 27th of this month. as always, we're welcome for any candidates, and it's an ongoing process. If y'all have ideas, the positions are development as well as student services. So happy to hear from any of y'all. And I already have a number of, I think, coffees set up with some members of Senate. So if you're on campus, want to connect, or virtually either, I would love to for any reason this semester as we kind of start beginning and opening projects. And then finally, just campus-wide pieces. I just encourage us all to try and do what we can this semester to keep us chugging along. We have volunteer opportunities open for COVID testing volunteers. You don't touch samples, you're spatially distanced. I will be out there, and I'm actually at the rec, so inside. And so if you have that, it's on my Twitter. That would be great service. And I also just encourage us to, if you have the ability to go in person, I know I tried my hardest to schedule in person capable classes. Please do. That's something that we fought really hard to have the ability to stay in classes and in person and on campus. And if you have that ability to safely do it, I encourage you and your friends to do that. And then the other thing is just please continue to do the right thing. We understand that COVID is alive and well. We're seeing spikes, of course. That's natural for the beginning of a semester. We want to try and mitigate that. But we've also seen just like we saw in the fall, we've seen our peers, UT Austin primarily, who went virtual for the first 2 weeks. They've already started making changes, and that's not something we want here at A&M and in College Station. So please continue to do your part so we can have successful semesters similar to what we saw in the fall. So I will end it there. Speaker McHugh, I'll turn it back over to you. Happy to answer any questions, and good to see you all and excited for this semester.
Are there any questions for SBP Mendoza? Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pro Tempore Trosclair. Eric, I guess my question is a little more in line with what you talked about in the beginning with the letter for pass-fail. Is that something all of Senate is going to need a resolution to affirm or support for you to continue pushing that? Or is that something you can kind of handle purely from the executive side? Or how can we help you best accomplish that goal?
No, I mean, I think from what I've heard, and again, I think the last email I got from the outgoing provost on it was very shortly before she left, and she was very involved, and the idea was something that they embraced. So I fully understand that they will, I imagine, embrace it in some sense. If they don't, in terms of the interim team, and they don't like it, and something that we all truly want, I think that'd be great for Senate to get involved. I honestly think it's just the mess of just the reality of starting a semester. So no, I'll keep you posted, but you're of course welcome to, but I think it's okay.
Permission to follow up?
Briefly.
Thank you. Have all Texas A&M grad school programs across the board, whether it's in biomedical science, whether it is the Bush School, whether it is some of the medical facilities we have, the vet school, have all those essentially been briefed that current A&M students did not have pass-fail? They are cognizantly aware of that, and they can see that on those transcripts. Are they aware that that's what the university did versus their peers or potential peers from other schools that might be applying into those programs?
So I can't speak specific to interdepartmental pieces. Obviously, I'm imagining that all departments at A&M should vividly be aware because they all have seats in the faculty senate. The faculty senate was vividly aware, and their opinion was stated that they did not like it. So I fully intend that, yes, all at A&M should be aware. If not, that can be something else I try and ask about. Outside A&M, I think if people keep up with things, they might. A lot of campuses did, a lot of campuses didn't. So I would say, it would just kind of depend. But for A&M specific, they should know because they have representation on faculty senate, but I don't know that it was a consistent piece or a message that was sent along.
Thank you.
Any further questions for SBP Mendoza? Seeing none, SBP Mendoza, thanks so much for being here and coming and speaking to us back in the first meeting here. I will now move to Chief Justice McIntosh.
All right, well, howdy, Senate. feels good to be back. I hope everyone had a great break and a safe return to this semester. I know I went and got my COVID test when I got back, and it feels good to be back in Aggieland, back in the swing of things. As Eric had mentioned, it's great to see Senator Allen back. So as for J-Court, I know everyone is happy to wrap up early this first week of classes, so I will keep it short and sweet. As would be expected, J-Court did not have much action over the break. There was not a ton for us to need to do. So, but we are starting back up next week, getting the ball rolling again. And as always, if you need anything in the meantime or have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Are there any questions for Chief Justice McIntosh? Seeing none, Chief Justice McIntosh, thanks for being with us again here after the break. And with that, I'll now move into my executive report, but I'm going to step down from the chair and hand the chair over to Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair as I take the floor. I'm not going to give too many updates here. First and foremost, one of the things that I wanted to address was the two new exec replacements that Eric mentioned. We are doing those at our next meeting after we get all the info from the exec side. So be ready for that coming here this next meeting. The other thing I wanted to cover is the mentorship program that I've been telling you guys about and pushing for a while. There's some action on that. So the task force has been established. It's being headed up by Jacqueline Askew over on the exec side. We had our first meeting to get things going just before this meeting, actually, and we're very optimistic about how that's looking and what that's going to look like. I know there's a lot more to come in the future. I don't want to speak anything too soon, but hopefully we're going to be able to turn that into a long-term project that sticks around SGA permanently. We're looking at putting in an RSO and potentially bringing it before Senate to make it a committee. So I'll keep y'all posted as we continue to look at all of that. Jacqueline is doing a phenomenal job at leading that. So we're really excited to see where that goes. And hopefully we can get that established before we get out of here at the end of the semester. Next, I wanted to welcome Senator Allen back, as Eric and Carissa both mentioned as well. It's good to have you back here. And then finally, I want to address what happened earlier today. I wanted to apologize to each and every single one of you. I know there was some confusion as to why we were planning on being hybrid and then we no longer were hybrid. So the process of that, there's several new processes that have been established for having an in-person meeting. One of those processes is submitting a Maroon Link form that would go to the VPSA's office. That Maroon Link form needs 2 weeks notice, and I submitted it last week. And so I apologize for dropping the ball on that one. We will hopefully have hybrid meetings moving forward. The Maroon Link forms have been submitted. So every meeting moving forward has that Maroon Link form way in advance at this point. So hopefully we'll be able to transition back to those hybrid meetings, but I did want to take that opportunity to apologize there for that. And that's all I've got. I'm open for questions.
Are there any questions for Speaker McHugh? Chair Teague. And I need to unmute you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tempore. Chair Teague, Finance. Mr. Speaker, have you looked into, in the event that our request is denied to use COLDIS 144, to use another classroom that would be able to accommodate us as well as not cost anything?
Yeah, so we've been looking at rooms across campus. We've specifically been looking at rooms that would accommodate more senators at once so that we could have the full body of Senate in person if they chose to be. Unfortunately, at the time that we meet, there are still classes going on at most places across campus. And any room on campus that is not hosting a class at that time is either not open for use or comes with a price tag that we just can't pay. A couple weeks ago, I did have a meeting with Jen Boyle and Student Activities. and we talked about finding potential rooms for us to meet, whether it be on campus or off campus. And one of the things we talked about was student activities potentially being open to footing the bill if the bill's not too expensive for us to have one of those bigger rooms. So they're still looking into that. They're also looking at places off campus for us to meet. Right now, we'll probably only have one of those bigger rooms or an off-campus room for our big meetings like joint session or for our last meeting of this session, just because anything that we have open right now will come with a price tag, and student activities will have to pay that for us. So that's what we've looked at, but hopefully as far as our normal meeting schedule goes, the Maroon Link has been submitted far in advance, so we'll hopefully be able to continue to meet in Coldest 144 as we go throughout the rest of the semester.
Are there any further questions for the speaker? Does not appear to be. So I believe that is it. And I hand the chair back to Speaker McHugh.
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair. We'll now move into a period of closing roll call led by Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair.
Guess I get it back. So you guys got about 10 minutes to go ahead and fill out closing roll call. Brogan just tossed that in the chat. Please have that in by 9:17, and y'all have a fantastic evening.
Great. As Speaker Pro Tempore Trosclair said, that form will be open till 9:17. Once you filled it out, you're more than welcome to go ahead and leave the meeting, as the meeting is now adjourned.